Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Okay. And I am really excited for today's episode because this conversation is not a conversation that I've ever had publicly. I usually do not ever mix my family and my career in media, but I feel like if I'm going to have this podcast and I'm going to start to share what my life looks like, I have to be honest. Today, we have an incredible guest. She is a mother wound coach, an author, and a podcaster. I'm so excited to have her on the show today. I have Jennifer Arnise. How are you, Jennifer?
I'm awesome. How are you, Leah?
Listen, Jennifer, I've already got my little tissue ready to try to catch up and make
Okay.
sure I don't mess up my makeup. But I'm really excited to talk to you because I found you on social media after one of your clips went very viral about how we should show up when it comes to our mothers in seeking validation. We're definitely going to get into that, but I'm really excited to have you here. I'm honestly a little scared.
Don't be
A little
scared. I'm
scared.
gonna hold your hand through it. I'm gonna hold your hand.
And I believe it. I believe I've been listening to your podcast. I'm not gonna lie, I have struggled to listen to your podcast. Not because I don't think the content is good, it's just because there's a reckoning within myself that I have to have to listen to your podcast and to feel all the things that it makes me feel. So I want to start with, a few years ago on Mother's Day. Mother's Day can be a very triggering holiday for me. And I posted on Instagram a picture of my mom and I said, me and my mom don't have the traditional mother daughter relationship that most people have when they're posting their mother on Mother's Day. But I want to make this post for the people out there who this day makes you feel uncomfortable, or this day makes you sad, or this day makes you feel uncomfortable. And the feedback that I received under the post was overwhelming. So that day taught me that this conversation needed to be had. And so here we are.
Here we are. Yes, I think this is the most important conversation the Black community can have. The most
Mm,
important.
yeah. I it's such a interesting conversation. And you see, like I think you can even see, people know me, I'm an interviewer, but this is I'm gonna have to go there. So when I talk about this podcast and kind of showing my life the last 2 years, um, I had a reckoning last year. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And just to give a little background, my mom and I have had kind of a contentious relationship. I think there was a point when I was like a really young child where we got along, and then there was just a point where we didn't. And it's always been very, very, very um, negative, if I'm being honest. And we've had a lot of issues over the years. But maybe about 3 years ago, my grandfather, her dad, died. And my grandfather was somebody that I cherished a lot. He was almost like a father figure to a lot of the women in our family. And my grandfather and my mom had a bit of a contentious relationship, but we were in the hospital, and my grandpa was on his deathbed, and he turned to me, and I was a little surprised, honestly, because I felt like in that hospital visit I knew like these were some of the last conversations I was going to have with him. And he turned to me and he said, Leah, you have to forgive her. And and that was like very, it almost took me back because I knew my grandfather to almost have his own issues with her. But when he asked me to do that, I knew that he felt like before he left, that was something he wanted me to do. And so from that moment on, I did feel a pressure. And not even a pressure like I need to do this for someone else, but I felt like I wanted to try to honor him, right? And so from that point on, I really tried to create a better relationship with my mom and I. And we kind of started working toward it, but it's a lot of years of trauma behind that, right? And so we went to therapy. And I think when we started to go to therapy, I started to realize that my mom was doing the best that she could, right? And you talk about this on your podcast about sometimes, even though our parents can try their best, it still might not have been good enough for what we needed. And so all these years, I'm trying to kind of reckon with that, right? And then my mom last year gets diagnosed with breast cancer. And I'm gonna be honest, Jennifer, I was in shambles because I didn't really know how to put all the things I felt. I thought about, okay, if my mom dies from breast cancer and our relationship has been as bad as it's been, does she die? And I think that I didn't try hard enough. Does she die and I failed what my grandpa wanted me to do? Or is it, are we at peace with where we are? And I couldn't really get my feelings in order. And so I realized that I had a deep mother wound. And I saw your post around the time that this happened. And I was like, wow, there are so many things that I wanted validated. If this is really the end of my mom's journey, right? If this diagnosis, because this is when she first got the diagnosis. So, of course, you're thinking of all these things, right? And I'm like, how do I heal these things, especially if my mom is not in the space to give it to me? How do I go on when I'm trying and sometimes the trying feels like a brick wall? How do I reconcile the little girl in me who wishes, even in this moment, that my relationship with my mom could be different and would have been different? And so there's a conversation, like you said, that our community has to have. And part of the reason all these years I've never spoke on my mom's relationship was because I felt like I had to protect her. I felt like there was no way after my mom took care of me, fed me, bathed me, provided for me, that I could ever open my mouth to publicly speak against her. But I know that there's someone who's like me. I have friends like me, and we have conversations on the phone that we would never tell anybody else. And now I just feel like now more than ever is so important as Black women are getting therapy and we're learning to love ourselves and we're learning to step into who we are, that we have these conversations. So I just want to thank you for being transparent about your experiences, using your platform to do this work, because even one video from you helped me in my season where I'm clearly still trying to figure it out. So now that I've given you my life story, I want you to tell me what made you start this space and what made you comfortable with sharing what little Jennifer maybe never wanted to tell anybody.
For me, before I got on the journey, and first of all, thank you for sharing that. And
Thank you.
what you're doing right now, before I even speak, everything that you just said freed you.
Mm,
And this is my exercise. If you've been listening to me, you know I give homework, right? When this
yes.
is over, I want you to go back and listen to this, which you might not want to. You might be like, nah, I don't even want to
Mm,
hear it, because you're going to go back. And when you watch it, you're not going to see the adult Leah. What you're going to see is the little girl Leah. You're going to see her innocence. You're
mm,
going to see her caring heart. You're going to see her genuine desire to be loved and how much
mm,
she loved her mother. And it's going to get rid of so much guilt that you have, because you're going to say,
mm,
oh, she's just a girl. She's just, oh, that makes perfect sense. You know, like when you see me or hear me talk about my experience, you're not judgmental of me. You're like,
right.
oh, that is great that she's talking about that. But there's a judgment we put on ourselves. So, as a person who's been doing personal growth and development work for over 20 years, and who also is someone who uses video in their work, when you go back and watch this, it's going to relieve you. So
Mm,
if you don't do anything else, it's going to already change you, because what we're carrying as a community, and this is going to go into the answer, around the mother wound and around so many things, is shame.
Mm,
We're carrying so much shame, and we don't know that it's shame because it's been culturally threaded through our lifestyle and through our childhood,
yeah.
right? Because shame comes from this feeling we get when someone is disappointed in us. And anytime our parents aren't there for us in a way we need, we think it's our fault and we think, oh, I've disappointed them. This must be my fault. And so it creates shame in us, right? And I learned this before I understood the mother wound, but I understood it through the context of being sexually assaulted when I was 17 years old, and that was my first emotional struggle, was getting through that, and I spoke
Mhm.
about that openly at 40. Now, it happened when I was 17. I didn't speak about it till I was 40, and it
Wow.
freed me, and I was like, "Oh, so shame is what had me in the chokehold, and the only thing that gets rid of shame is sharing." And I
Mm,
said, "Huh, I got something else that's been nagging at me since I was 4, 5 years old, and it won't go away, and I've done everything to get rid of it." And my mother and I had a conversation, and that was the last conversation we had, and in that conversation, and it was on its way to becoming an argument, but she hung up on me because she said I was being disrespectful when I was disagreeing with
mm,
her. And I was like, oh, every aspect of my life has been shaped by my relationship with her.
yeah.
And when I looked at the state of my life, internally and externally, I was like, oh, you got to get this together. And that's when I went back to, oh, the only way you can get this together is to share it. That's the only way. Because I thought, as you know, for 20 years, oh, me being raped was my fault and that it never
Mm,
would have happened to anyone else. At 17, I was like, oh, that never would happen. And I'm also exaggerating the whole thing. It wasn't as bad as I
yeah.
thought. And then when I spoke about it, I was like, oh, you're not the only one. Oh, and then people were like, I wish I would have known because I would have been there for you. Like people who were my friends that never knew. And I was like, well, maybe there is support for me. I have decided
Yeah.
no one will be there for me. I decided that because my mother wasn't there for me. I thought emotionally, no one else would be there for me. And I had to challenge that. And that's when I started talking about the mother wound because I was like, what if I'm not the only one? Because I really need to know if I'm crazy or not. Right.
Mm,
And when it started, it just unleashed this whole like whirlwind and community of women who are like, we are silently in the same boat with you. And we're all sinking because no one is sharing. And
yeah.
I didn't want anyone to go through that. I didn't want anyone to go through the hell that I had gone through. I didn't want anybody to feel that loneliness. I didn't want anybody to feel that shame. I didn't want that confusion, that frustration, that rage that you had to hold in. I did not want anybody to go through that because I knew what it felt like. And so I was like, we're going to talk about it. And that's just what we've been doing ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you kind of mentioned in the podcast that in the Black community, mothers are revered, right? So I have found myself in conversations with friends. I have a really good friend, and her mom is her best friend, right? Her mom is her rock. And I realized how uncomfortable it made people when I talked about my mother in a negative way. Um, her father was incarcerated, right? And so when I would talk about my relationship with my dad, she could get with that, right? Yeah, girl, forget him. I get it. I get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I was like, oh, but wait, my mama ain't a cakewalk either. And she'd be like, oh, you and your mom aren't close. Oh, your mom's not your best friend. Oh, you don't invite your mom to your birthday parties. Oh, you don't, and I felt a sense of uncomfort because I was like, oh, this is not something that we share and talk about with people. This is something that people look at you upside your head like you insane. when you say something about your mom. And that was where I was like, ooh, this is a very rough space to kind of express yourself in our community, because for a lot of households, Ma Dukes was the one holding it down. My mom was, the beacon of light in every household. She did it when no one else would. And while all of that is true, it doesn't mean that she didn't traumatize you in the way.
Two
And I
things
didn't even
can be true at
realize.
one time.
Correct, correct. And I had to learn that in therapy, because I'm going to be honest. When I first started going to therapy, I thought everything was my daddy issues. My daddy wasn't there. That's why I like boys the way I like boys. And the longer I went to therapy, the more I realized it was really the stuff my mom did to me in our actual home than it was my dad's lack of presence, which I won't, take him off the hook either. He, his lack of presence affected me as well. But a negative presence is also a negative presence as well. And when I started going to therapy, I started to realize, like, oh, okay. I had a therapist tell me, I remember we were talking kind of about how my abandonment issues kind of connect in dating, but also in platonic relationships, right? The standard that I expect of people to stay by me, um, and the loyalty I expect from people at every level sometimes is not realistic, right? And so the therapist was like, "Oh, well, it's because you got abandonment issues." I said, "Who has abandonment issues? What are you talking about?" And I was like, and she was like, you have them from your father, and you really have them from your mother. And I was like, I'm sorry, because again, in my head, it's my mom. My mom, my dad didn't stay. My mom did. She
My
fed me.
mom
She
was
kept.
here,
She put
right?
me in
Yes.
soccer. She put me. My mom didn't abandon me, right? And she said, let me ask you this: have you ever felt mentally, emotionally, or physically abandoned by your mom? Shut me the hell up. I couldn't say nothing,
Right.
because she was right. She was right. Emotionally and mentally, my mom wasn't there. And so I realized that we in the Black community sometimes chunk up abandonment or lack of presence
To
as
physical.
abandonment.
Yes.
And that's not just it.
Right.
Parents are so much more than physically standing in your presence or money. You know what I mean? Time, energy, effort is so important,
Yes.
but we don't consider that.
No, yeah. Black parenting, traditional Black parenting is first and foremost a physical objective, right?
Hmm.
It's food, it's clothing, shelter, and that's rooted
Hmm.
in chattel slavery, right? That's
Come
rooted in
on.
systematic racial oppression because literally we had to physically survive.
Yeah.
So there was not a space. There was not anything you could check off the box for. Are you sad? Are you
Mm,
discouraged? Because our parents were sad and discouraged. Oh, you couldn't really have a conversation with your kid when they came home and they would say, well, the teacher was unfair to me. The kids were unfair. They hurt my feelings when they weren't being nice. When your parents are out in real life battling segregation, battling
mm.
discrimination, themselves being treated unfairly and things of that nature, right? So it's like they couldn't give that because no one listened to them. So this trauma was passed down. And traditional Black parenting, I want to say traditional Black parenting is so rooted in that physical aspect. And it's also rooted in we owe our parents for bringing us into this world, right? Which is also rooted in chattel slavery and oppression,
Hmm.
because it's like, oh, you did me a favor by having me, and
Yep.
that's what we're taught. And now we got to bring the Black church into it because honor and
Uh-oh.
obey your
Uh-oh.
parents till the day you die. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, they sacrificed for us, so we have to repay them. So imagine being
Slavery.
someone who feels indebted. That means you owe everything and you can ask for nothing. And it's a
Mm.
debt that a lot of people are happily, I could never repay it. I don't want a debt I can't repay.
Come on.
I don't want that. And that is not the nature of healthy parenting and a healthy relationship, because
Yeah.
how we interact with our mother teaches us how we interact with others. The mother wound is a relational wound. Abandonment and rejection and shame are all relational. Emotional and mental trauma is relational. And so if we come into a situation with our mother where it's like she's not there for us, of course we swing to the whole other end of the spectrum, and it's like, you better be there for me. You better show up for me, especially when we have learned to show up for others. When we've been the responsible
Mhm.
daughter,
Mm.
that firstborn oldest girl, baby,
Only girl.
only
Hmm.
girl. I'm the only girl. Like there is an expectation, and we think, oh, if I'm good to her, she'll be good to me.
Hmm.
So everything we do in our relationships as we grow up is really not the adult version of us. It's the little girl version of us trying to get the mother's love and approval.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's why
absolutely.
the
And it's
cycle just
so,
keeps going.
no, you're absolutely right. It's so intertwined. And when I was at Howard University, I learned about the fact that even how black parents will be like, we'll be at a school setting and the teacher will be like, well, Leah is a great communicator and she does well. I wish she would do that at home. I wish she would do her homework. I wish she That is a product of slavery,
Yeah.
period, point blank.
Yeah.
Black parents were trying to make their child less attractive to a slave master. Now you
Right.
don't
Yes.
want him because he don't he
Absolutely.
do this, he
Yes.
don't do that. Like all of this is so ingrained in
It's
slavery. That's
all
why when
ingrained. Also, if
people
you applaud someone, you will make them lazy or you will spoil them and then they will be no good.
mm,
So if you
talk
don't
about
give them
that.
something to strive for, which is the whip, then how
Uh-oh.
can you make them be better? Versus,
Mm,
oh, why don't we, tap into what their dreams and their passions are and encourage them and they take inspired action versus she just gonna be a lazy old thing anyway if I don't stay on her.
yeah.
That's all slavery. And it
Mm,
is deeply infused in how we parent. And that's what makes a Black mother wound differently because culturally it's reinforced.
mm,
All around us, it's reinforced that to be hard on your kids, especially women on their daughters, that's going to make her strong.
mhm.
White women don't seek to make their daughter strong. Asian women don't seek to make their daughters strong. Latino women don't seek to make their daughters strong.
Oh, that's good.
So why do we have to be strong? It's like, oh, because of all the stuff that's happening in the world. And there's a way to teach your child resilience versus strength. Those are two different
Mm,
things. And if you have a difficult time in life, the traumas that we suffer because we are Black and because we are women can turn into resilience when we're supported by those we love. When we go through those difficult things and we're not supported, then it turns to trauma, and strength becomes the armor around trauma. It doesn't become a benefit, it becomes a crown of thorns.
mm. Oh, Jennifer, you spitting today. Come on, give us a word. Do you know one of the things that I discovered in therapy that has helped me in my career, but is also unfortunate because it is a trait based on my trauma? I didn't realize that being a perfectionist stemmed from trying to get that validation. The validation piece, that's what really stuck out to me in that clip on your social media, because when I was a child, my mother never said good job. She never said I was proud. She never said, Leah, you're doing good, you know. And so I spent my whole life tap dancing and going, do you see me, mommy? Do you see me? Did you see it? Like, watch me do this. I spent so much of my childhood just wanting to hear, you did all right. You did okay. You did something other than you could do better. You know what I mean? And when I got older, I realized that like that stemmed from my mom just never saying, Leah, you did a good, Leah, I'm proud. You've honored me. You've done well. I got to a point where it was like, okay, if she won't acknowledge me, I'll get everybody else to acknowledge me, right? Because then maybe if someone else says it to her, then she'll be like, okay, I get it, right? So then this turns into a perfection complex, right? Everything that I do, it has to be excellent. Okay. If I'm in choir, I'm being the best singer. I'm bringing home the solos. I'm bringing home the awards. When I'm playing soccer, I'm getting the scholarships offers and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Everything that I did, I felt like I had to be overzealous because I just wanted to hear my mom say, you did well, daughter. You did okay. And I remember going to college and graduating from Howard. And when I was a kid, my mom used to always say, "You don't need a boyfriend, you need a degree. Don't get a boyfriend until you get a degree," right? And so when I got the degree, I turned to her and I said, "Okay, I got the degree. Do I get the boyfriend now?" And she goes, "Well, now make so much money you can buy one." And I was like, "Girl, are you even proud of me?
Are
Like, are you
you
proud
even
of me?
proud of me? Yeah. And
Are you
she
even
couldn't
proud?"
give you what she didn't have. And I think the difficulty
Mm,
in that is, again, two things can be true. In her own humanity, she couldn't give it, but it
yeah,
doesn't mean that you don't need it. Right?
yeah.
And she did cause a harm in you that she can't fix, and that's why
Mhm,
healing the mother wound really has nothing to do with your mother. It has to do with the relationship you build with yourself. Because in all of the and I think language is really important. I talk to my clients and my students about this all the time. Like when we say perfectionism, that's just a great way to say it because it makes us feel like we're a good person, right? When the
mhm,
true what we really feel is unworthiness. And I think if we take out the word perfection and we say, oh my God, in everything I do, I just feel so unworthy. I just feel
mm,
unworthy. I just have to keep going and going and going. And I can't make a mistake because I feel unworthy. That is the truth. It is not
mm.
because I'm a perfectionist. That's not even a real word. Like that's a word that somebody made up to bypass their own trauma. Right.
Yeah.
So when we can look at it and say, oh, am I behaving right now like I'm unworthy?
Mm,
You can then switch and center yourself and say, I'm somewhere in this behavior, I'm abandoning myself. The
mm,
thing that I want from her, I'm not even giving it to myself. How am I abandoning myself? Like, now, what would it feel like in this moment as I do this thing, right? What would it look like if I accepted myself here? Like, if I congratulated myself on how far I came right now, how would that change how I feel in my body? How would that
mm,
impact the next decision that I made? How would that impact the people that I interact with and how I show up if I go ahead and say, good goddamn job, girl, you did that. That is awesome. I am so proud of you. Like because then there's a whole conversation about decentering men right now in
mhm,
romantic relationships. And it's not just about men, it's decentering everyone. Imagine decentering your mother because the perspective that we have of her is a romantic perspective. It's not a realistic one. It is a
mm.
Disney fantasy that she
Yeah.
will come to save us. Our mother is the knight in shining armor. And it's
Mm,
like, oh, if I'm good enough, if you want the actual man, women are taught to be weak enough. Or if I'm weak enough, he'll come and save me. For our mothers, it's like if I'm good enough, she'll come and embrace me, right? And when we center ourselves and we stop treating ourselves how our mother treats us, all of that shifts. And that sense of loneliness goes away because we learn to regulate our own emotion and our own perspective. So I think that is like a super important thing to understand. But in order to decenter her, you have to give up the fantasy.
mm,
You have to give up the fantasy because the fantasy tells you she's the only one who can make me feel loved.
mm.
She's the only one that can
Jesus.
make me feel valued. She is the only, without her, it's not possible. And that is not true. That's when we come into the psychology of it. Your mind does not know time, it does not know space, it doesn't know who is who, and it doesn't know what's real and what's not. It wants to be loved. And for it to genuinely get its emotional needs met, it doesn't care who it comes from. So you become your mother because we have attached what mother means. Mother means acceptance, nurture, care, support. We've attached that to the word mother. And it doesn't have to come from our mother. It doesn't make us a better person if it comes from our mother.
Mm.
It mean less if it comes from us. You know, having a mother that you're close with is a lot of people's flex. You
Ooh.
know what I mean? It's like me and my mother, we get along. We're so and if you have to flex that, it's not all you think it is. We just only see the surface. That's like when somebody like my man, but you don't really know what's popping behind closed doors.
Yeah,
And we're
that's
not
real.
saying everybody doesn't have not some people do have a great relationship with their mother, but if you have a real healthy relationship, then you can also understand there is conflict. There are
Yeah.
growing pains in that. You know, when people come into my comments and send me messages, me and my mother are perfect and our life is good, and they're like triggered by what I say, I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, there's something there,
Deeper.
but you're not ready to see it because it's the greatest pain of a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
But being able to come through it is also the greatest. It's like winning a lottery because you're like, oh, I thought this thing was it, and it's not. And when you center yourself and start to give yourself what you need, you can then see your mother as a person.
Yeah.
And it's not about forgiveness. It is just about, oh, that's where she is. That's what happened. You can make peace and have compassion and have grace, but only after you have it for yourself. You cannot extend compassion and grace and acceptance to your mother if you haven't given it to yourself. It will be a
Mm.
lie. It will be performative. It will look good on the outside, but you will still be in the bathroom, curled up in the corner, bawling your eyes out because it's like, it didn't help. I gave her everything. Why didn't she still?
Yeah.
It's not that. And for you specifically, because I get this a lot about daughters who their mothers may be sick or their mothers may have passed on. And it's like, how do I reconcile in this situation? And it's
Yeah.
not about her. You have to decenter her. Healing your mother wound is not about her. I haven't
Mm.
spoken to my mother in 10 years and I'm healing my mother wound. It's like she doesn't want to speak to me. I'm not upset because I'm like, "Oh, if if you love someone, you want them to be happy, right?
Right.
Really, truly. She's happier not speaking to her children.
Mm.
That doesn't mean anything to me. I feel like I'm giving her a gift by respecting that.
Mm. That's a
And
reframe.
it's all a reframe. Everything that we're going through is it's a perspective, right?
Yeah.
And everybody has to, I always say that everybody's got to row their own boat. And everyone is at their own level of evolution. Your mother this is I always use this as an example. Your mother might be a pager. You are iPhone 16 Pro Max.
Mm.
You don't try to FaceTime on a pager. You don't have a phone call on a pager. Like we have a different level of emotional technology. Our programming can be updated. So if you really think about it in that way, we can say, oh, this is really all she can do. And we can take away like, oh, well, she's my mother. She should do this. It's like, oh, I've been expecting water from a dry well. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
I shouldn't get the water, but I can't FaceTime on a pager. But I
Yeah.
can say I love you on a pager. The communication has to be much more simple. It has to
Yeah.
be much shorter. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely it does. And honestly, I think that's where in my journey I got a lot of freedom. I think I was really stuck for a long time on what I thought our relationship should have been. One of the first things I ever told a therapist when I started doing therapy was, it bothers me to think that if my mom dies tomorrow, I don't know who she is. I don't know who she is as a person. I don't know her favorite color. I don't know most of her friends. I couldn't tell you a lot of moments from her life. And that bothers me. And
Why does that bother
I
you? Why did that bother you?
I think because the idea of having a mom and just not like that relationship not looking like what I thought it should look like, or what it was, or what I desired it to be. Not even the look of it, what I truly desired. You know what I mean? My mom was extremely close with her mom. And I think that's, an interesting, you know, thing. She doesn't have a mother wound that I know of, at least. She is very admirable about her mom. So when I think of our relationship, it's quite the opposite of the experience she had with hers. And so I would love to be able to call my mom and talk to her about things that are going on in my life, or I would love to have a relationship where navigating some of life's hardest decisions, I could have called her and been like, what would you do? What has life taught you? What is the thing on this journey of life that you could pour into me as a mother? And when I think about her not being here anymore, it used to make me sad to feel like I don't know anything. And maybe I honestly got peace partially about it because my mom is trying a little bit more now. You know what I mean? After we went to therapy and I expressed to her that's what my grandfather wanted, I think that was a turning point for her, because her father, who was the last immediate family member she had, all of her siblings and her mother are gone. I'm it as far as her bloodline. And I think for her, she realized it's me or nothing. And so I think she's been trying, and I can give my mom that, and I respect it, because even her wanting to go to therapy, my mom was born in the 50s. I didn't think she was going to go to therapy with me. I give her that. And even going to therapy with her, it really unlocked the she was really doing her best. She didn't get a lot in her cup. And I think, sometimes we use that excuse to kind of excuse behavior. But that therapy session taught me otherwise. Because when I was telling my mom, I was like, you never really said you were proud of me. You never said that you love me. You never said you were happy. Like, you never, all the things that I did and I've accomplished. You've never just called and said, hey, you're proud. And she said, well, nobody ever did that for me. My parents didn't do that. That was not something that we did. And that moment for me was like, Leah, you're living your whole life walking in trauma, and this woman is just repeating what was done to her. You're literally living her own experiences through her now. And so it gave me a sense of peace that if my mom never changes and we never grow more than where we are, I can accept it. But that doesn't mean that little Leah doesn't still have the desire for it to be better.
Right. And what I how I want to add to that and add some color to that is what a little Aaliyah wants is to still feel, not only want, she needs to feel seen, loved, and heard.
Mm,
And what you have to teach her is it doesn't have to come from the traditional source.
yeah.
Because if she keeps feeling it has to come from that traditional source, there's going to continue to be a rub, and it's going to creep in the interaction, like, let me rub up on the real slight, like, maybe I'm not even going to let her know that's what I'm trying to do, but I am doing it. And in those ways it is manipulative, right?
Mm,
Because it's like I'm trying to get my need met on the sly.
mm,
And that is still a form of rejecting and abandoning ourselves, because what we're saying is, I'll take less. I'll take what I can get.
oh Lord.
And when you begin to take what you can get in that first relationship, because our mother is our first relationship, then we can rationalize taking what we can get in other
Everywhere else.
relationships. So
My
it is a
God.
very slippery slope. You have to be, that's why I share so vulnerably. I'm so transparent, because this is my sobriety,
Mm,
right? Having a mother wound, and a mother wound is a spectrum. Having a mother wound is like, it means not having full autonomy. My audience, my clients, my students have an acute pain, right? They have an
mm,
acute pain in this toxic, painful relationship with their mother. And that acute pain, I'm giving it to you from a physical perspective. That acute pain, they have begun to self-medicate with
Mm.
the drug of people pleasing, hyper independence,
Oh Lord.
overachievement, right? Which is codependence. They've self medicated with that. And now we've become addicts, right? So we're addicted to this. And that's why I say you have to be very careful, because an addict can't go into the bar. That's why how I look at it, like I can't go into a bar where everybody's drinking. I can't
Yeah.
be in that environment because I have to be completely sober. Because once I take a sip of people pleasing, I'm gonna spiral out. I'm gonna wake up the next morning with my underwear on my head. You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
it's a high that
Yeah.
I'm
Bro.
chasing. That's why I tell people who don't want to set boundaries, because they say, "Oh, I feel guilty. I don't want to feel guilty." Guilty is another word you use to make you feel like a good person. Like, I don't want to be a bad
Mm.
person. Don't make me guilty. No, you don't want to feel withdrawal.
Oh
When you set a
Lord.
boundary, you go through withdrawal. And that's why it's so important you have a support system when you're healing. You cannot do it alone. Like my community of like almost 100,000 women, it's like we're not in AA, we're in MWA. We're in Mother Wound Anonymous. And
Yeah, I'm
and
there.
right. And my thing is not, oh, how can you be perfect? How can you get past it? It is, how can you practice sobriety every day, day by day by day? Like an alcoholic is always an alcoholic. A person who's a true addict, they can have been sober for 20 years. They're like, I'm an addict. I
Yeah.
practice sobriety. So what I'm trying to get Black women to do is practice emotional sobriety.
Mm.
And when you do that and you follow the principles of that, your life changes, because you're no longer looking outside of you, and you're able to take accountability. You're able to be responsible. And when you can take accountability for your own life and be responsible and you gain autonomy, you now look at everybody else and you're like, you know what? They have the ability to be responsible for their life too. They may not know how, but they have it. I now know it's not my job. And you don't even have the time anymore because you are so focused on staying emotionally sober.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, which in the beginning could be a couple years, depending on your level, it
Yeah.
takes everything you have. But that's why it's not about the mother. It's
Mm.
about the relationship you have with yourself. And although that reconciliation is an internal reconciliation, it is not about the relationship with her.
Mm. Who, Jennifer? You driving down my street, you in my garage, and you might as well walk in my house because you
I'm
stressing
cooking
me
at the
out. But
kitchen right now. I'm at the kitchen.
you're
I'm at the
cooking,
stove
sister.
right now. Okay.
Listen, I'm getting my tail burnt the hell up. I'm over here because you talk about my life. Something that I wanted to talk to you about particularly. You have your own set of mother wounds, and then you became a mother. I think one of my big reasons that I'm reluctant about children is because, after all this therapy, after all this self actualization, bro, you're going to screw up your kids no matter what. But then when you have rough relationships with your parents, you think about, like, my God, I don't want to bleed onto my children, the next generation. I think one of my thoughts going to therapy was like, bro, I can't screw my kids up, and I got to be a better parent than the ones that I got at times. So talk to me about the reckoning you had having a child after having, deep wounds with your mother.
For me, I always knew I was torn because in one way, I knew I wanted to parent differently. But in
Yeah.
another way, I had my mother on this pedestal. She was a good
Mm,
mom. I'm gonna do everything she does. But
right.
as I would try to live both of those truths together, they would always clash. And I was like, oh, you're going to have to choose between the two. And you healing a relational wound has to be healed in relationship with another. So some of the healing is not going to happen until you have kids. It's not going to happen until you're in the situation. And that's why it's important to be continually doing your own reparenting work, because the way you reparent yourself will deeply influence how you parent. Instead of like, oh, how can I be a good parent to my child? The focus has to be, how can I reparent myself? Because then you will
Mm,
naturally have a different level of interaction with your child. And you have to be committed to not being, I always say, not being a generic parent, right?
yeah.
And creating something that is unique for you and that child, right? People always talk about um kids are generalized, right? Oh, the terrible twos. Oh, when they 2 years old,
Mhm.
they're gonna be wow, they're gonna do all this. That's marketing and that's propaganda. My child didn't go through the terrible twos. He didn't, I mean, he just didn't. He was the same person as he grew to. You know what I'm
I love
saying?
it.
And I was like, oh, okay. Then they say, oh, when your child is a teenager, they're gonna be wild. They're gonna do this. That's when they don't want to be around their mom and this and that. My son is 17, and if y'all follow me online, you know my son is like a man. He's like a 70-year-old man. He's a boxer. He wrestles. You know what I'm saying? He's a intellect. All these kind of things. We will sit in the car and we have a conversation. He'll reach over and hold my hand while we're
Mm,
talking, and it's because the healing work I've done is on my own humanity. I'm a person. And this, the number one thing I can say is to share your life with your kid. Like, you know how you didn't hear a lot about your mother's life? I didn't hear a lot about my mother's life.
yeah.
And I think they felt like, again, parenting is adversarial. If you
Yeah.
can take the adversarialness out of the parenting, of course you're going to make mistakes. My kid knows I make mistakes, but what I'm committed to is repair.
Mm,
Forever, how long it takes, it don't even matter, right? Because I have
yeah.
those first 7 years, I fucked up. What? Still to this day, I'm like, I'm so sorry. But it's not in
Mhm.
the talking, it's in the walking. But I
Yeah.
only can do it in a way through my own sobriety, right? That's
Yeah.
the only, your kids do not want perfection. Your kids want truth.
Mm,
They want the truth. But you
yeah.
can't give your child the truth if you have shame. You can't give your child an anti-adversarial relationship if you have an adversarial relationship with yourself. And so many parents want their kids to do what they say, but your kids do what they see.
Oh, talk about it. Come on.
So I don't want my child to see me as perfect. I want my child to see me as human,
Yeah.
because he's going to make a lot of mistakes. I don't want to prepare him for perfection. I want to prepare him for how he repairs within himself when he
Mm,
disappoints himself, when he falls short, when shit seems like it's hitting the fan and he
yeah.
doesn't abandon himself. I don't want it to be I'm not raising him to have a good relationship with me. I'm raising him to have a good relationship with himself.
Come
That is
on.
the gift of parenting. That is a responsibility of parenting. It is not about he gets up and says, my mother did so much for me and she sacrificed. I already told him, I said, because you're going to be somebody and you're going to be on stage. Do not go up there and talk about, she gave her everything and she worked 6 jobs for me. Don't tell that story, because they're going to try and trap you because you're a black boy raised in a single family household. I want you to talk about how much fun we had, how smart you are, how smart your mama is, all the
Come
things we used to
on.
do, and the good times we had. And you can say she has grown, right?
Yeah.
But it isn't this, because we put our mother on a pedestal, but it's also we objectify her. Because when you put your mother on a pedestal, oh, she can do no wrong. You create an environment for her where she can't do any wrong. She can't make a
Mm,
mistake. She can't grow. So actually, it really is not good for her either to be put on that pedestal, because it's like, oh, everybody's watching me. If I make a mistake, they're going to do this, they're going to say that. But when you can let her just be, it's like, oh, I'm a human being who had an egg and some sperm come together 9 months. You came out. You are your own person. I'm my own person. Right.
yeah.
That does not take away everything I have going on. And so I think that's what I want people to know through parenting. But you have to be just doing your own work. The better your
Mm,
relationship you have with yourself, the better your relationship will be in parenting. It is very simple in that way. And also, I would like to say, people learn how to do so many things. Like, you, let's say you want to be in media, you go to college, you study for 4 years, right? When somebody want to
mm.
learn, whenever, I used to want to be a makeup artist in my own mind, I'm gonna go on YouTube, I'm gonna binge how to beat my face,
Right.
how to contour. Like, we are studying, we are learning, we are looking at people who get it right. I want to be able to lay. Okay, how do I lay the lace? How do I melt the lace? Okay, hold on, what I gotta go get? You
Right.
know what I'm saying? But we don't want to do that with parenting.
Yeah.
We don't want to take the time to learn the skill of parenting, because for us, parenting is cultural. It's how we
Yep.
claim, I am a Black woman, I'm a Black mama, I'm a Black parent, these are Black kids. And it's a part of our identity, how we parent. But we don't
Hmm.
realize that that identity is rooted in chattel slavery and systematic racial oppression.
Come
And
on, talk
that's why I
about it.
say traditional Black parenting is rooted in the Black church, which is rooted in slavery and systematic racial oppression. And we have to be willing to disappoint the status quo and say, what works? Not what looks good, but what
Come.
works. I read a lot of books about parenting, right? I studied. It wasn't like, oh, just it's a skill set. If you want to learn to drive, you gotta, get behind the wheel, take it like. But for some reason, when it comes to relationships, and parenting is a relationship. So if you
Hmm.
take away the word parenting, it's a relationship. We don't
Yes.
study relationships outside of what we see on social media and YouTube. Nobody wanted to talk about relationships before Kevin Samuels. Now, all of a sudden, we have relationship experts that don't know about relationships. And when we
Mm,
look at relationships, what we really mean are romantic relationships. We don't say, oh, I want to have healthier relation. I want to have a healthy relationship. They're not talking about a relationship with their kids or their family or with
yep.
themselves. It's all
Oh,
external. And that's a misuse of the language. And it bypasses how you get there. And you get there by having a healthy relationship with yourself.
so
That's where it starts, that's where it ends. And then educate yourself on the thing you want to be good at. I feel like that was a little bit of a rant, but
I'm sorry. No, you listen. Listen, mouth closed. You eating me up today. It's very rare that people can get me to shut the hell up. But sister,
let me drink some
you're
water.
doing it. Okay, listen. I know we are running short on time, but if there's somebody listening to this podcast and they're like, you know what, I didn't even know I had a mother wound. I didn't even know that this is something that I really needed to work on. Can you give 3 steps to start the journey to healing your mother wound?
Well, what I would say first is one, acknowledge and accept that you're
Mm.
not making it up. It's not your
Oh Lord.
imagination. You're not exaggerating, and it's not your fault. Like, really acknowledging that and accepting that. Second thing is understanding, and this is the hardest part. It is not about your mother. Do not send me no message talking about, well, me and my mom, this and that. It is about the relationship with yourself. It's
Mm.
about reparenting yourself and reclaiming your autonomy. That is where you start. And then lastly, cut yourself some slack. Anywhere, because let's remove the word, how do I heal my mother wound? And it is, how do I heal the relationship I have with myself? Because a mother wound is a broken relationship with yourself. So it's like, how do I heal the
Mm,
relationship with myself? Cut yourself some fucking slack.
mm,
Any part of the day where you can be kinder to yourself, do that. Become aware of the language you use when you're talking to yourself in your head,
mm,
and learn to, even if you don't have anything nice to say, if you're like, oh, I can't believe you did that shit. Why would you do that? You so stupid. You did that dumb shit again. Learn how to apologize to yourself, because we want everybody to apologize to us for everything
wow.
they've ever done to us. Apologize to yourself. And you're going to have a million ways to do it every day. And then when you apologize to yourself, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. And then come back and be like, I know it's okay, it's hard. We're learning how to do something new. Learn how to have that tender dialogue with yourself. That's what healing is, right? If you think about being with a man, you want him to talk to you nice.
Come on.
You want him to apologize when he does something wrong and then fix it. Do that with yourself. And as you practice that, you're going to see how your perspective shifts, how your body feels, how you start to sleep better at night, how you have more ideas, you're more creative, how certain people you might want to be around, it kind of agitates you right now. You want to be around them. It's like you start to feel another level of peace. You start to trust yourself. You start to become more decisive. You start
Yeah.
believing in yourself, all from that, what you said you want your mother to say to you. You did a good job. Start saying, "Oh, that
Mm.
was good." You make your bed in the morning, you be like, "Oh, you did good. That bed looks good, girl. You did good." I took a shower. That was a good shower. You did good. You went up and you picked your own clothes out today. That was good. I promise you, it's life changing.
Mm.
Sorry.
It's all good. Listen, you got me gagged today. I can't even say much else. You have been an amazing guest, Jennifer. Thank you so much again for the work that you do. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and for helping so many Black women heal. Um, let everybody know where they can follow you, where they can listen to the podcast, and anything else, where they can book you and get personal one-on-one coaching. You do it all. So can you let everybody know where they can get that information?
Absolutely. The easiest way to find me is go to my website. It's jenniferarnise.com, Arnise. You can find me on Instagram at Black Mother Wound. That's WOUND. And you can find me on YouTube. I have a podcast, their video podcast, and Jennifer Arnise is the same. And I have a group course that's coming up in a few weeks. I offer one-on-one coaching. So all the information is there. And my podcast is called The Black Mother Wound. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, Amazon, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find it. Black Mother Wound.
Yes, ma'am. And listen, don't go there if you don't want your edges peeled back blue, because that's
Listen.
exactly.
Don't say that I pull edges back. I moisturize edges. It's a
Yes, you do.
moisturizer.
Yes, you do.
It's a
Yes,
hair
you do. You peel
growth.
them back a little bit, they recede a bit, and then you just oil and massage it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you get us
I think it come
together.
back healthy,
Yes, amen. Prosperous edges.
prosperous, but
But
healthy.
it's it's
Yes.
it's it's needed. So again, I thank you for all the things that you have done for me personally and just helping me understand myself and my healing journey. So I appreciate you being on the first season of my podcast. This was a really important conversation and I didn't trust it with anybody but you. So I appreciate you.
Thank you for trusting me. You're doing a good
Absolutely.
job.
Uh, Thank you. I'm trying
You're
to
doing
do
a
a good
really
job.
good job. It's amazing. I'm proud of you. I really am.
Thank you. I
Yes,
appreciate that.
absolutely. Yes. If you don't do another thing, girl, you already did it.
Amen. I received that.
That's right.
Thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you. Well, listen, make sure you guys like, subscribe, download these episodes of Okay. And of course, we're going to put out a new episode every week and we're going to give you all of the details. So make sure you keep it here. Go ahead, again, like, subscribe, comment, tell everybody, share the podcast, and we will see you on the next episode of Okay. And